technology in emulsion colloid. Mayonnaise making. Emulsification is the process of turning two or more immiscible liquid, example oil and water, to form uniform and homogeneous solution. This process is mostly used in food industry. Example of application is during making of mayonnaise.
Their aims:
ensure the physico-chemical stability of the mayonnaise batter. It will determine the characteristic structure of batter, which greatly influences fat and moisture separation from the batter during cooking. It also creates a typical sensory such as appearance, texture or flavor.
How to make mayonnaise. Ingredients:
egg, cooking oil, vinegar or lemon juice.
Procedure:
firstly, separate egg yolks from the white. Mix the yolk using wire whisk and bowl at room temperature. It's optional to add seasoning like salt or pepper in the mixture. Then slowly add splash of lemon juice or vinegar and mix them well. After that, slowly add the cooking oil and stir until the ingredients mixed well. Lastly, store the mayonnaise in container and keep it in refrigerator.
What happened?
The making of mayonnaise is a process of emulsification. It creating a stable dispersion of two immiscible phases, typically water and oil. It is achieved by applying high-energy shear to an oil-water mixture to create droplets of the dispersed phase in the bulk.
So what is the mechanism to stabilize the mayonnaise by using emulsifying agent?
Being an emulsion colloid, mayonnaise is made in part of oil and vinegar. Vinegar is polar and oil non-polar, so the two did not mix. Mixing them would result in the two liquids separating into layers. The separation is due to characteristics of the oil that was hydrophobic. It will not attract to the vinegar molecules. This made the oil will be at the upper part of the separation and the bottom part will sit by the vinegar that have higher density. Egg yolk acts as the emulsifying agent since it interacts with both the polar vinegar and non-polar oil. Adding egg yolk stabilizes the mixture and prevents the separation of the two liquids. The egg yolks will be the bridge to bind the hydrophobic oil to the vinegar molecules. Lecithin is an emulsifier found in eggs that helps to prevent separation by binding the ingredients together. These molecules come with both polar and unpolar head-tail. This means the polar head will attract to polar vinegar molecules, while for an unipolar tail, it will attract to the unpolar oil molecules. This result made both of the molecules bind together and become mayonnaise.
The actual emulsification process, they are pretty much always considered to be the water phase of an emulsification. And so you're going to go ahead and drop in your fat into your water or to your continuous phase. So this will be a fat dispersed into water emulsification. So here I have my fat droplet, and you're going to add the fat very slowly at first. And this is because there's a lot of area for that fat to run and hide from the whisk, right? So the whisk needs to be able to break this up and emulsify it in. So as you start to continue to whisk around the bowl, you can add a couple more drops here and there as they start to incorporate, and eventually the fat will break up into smaller particles and look something like this. Now once you get the fat dispersed and your emulsification is going, and the way that you know that this dispersed is number one, it's going to come together, and also you're going to notice that the emulsification will start to thicken slightly. And at this stage, when it starts to thicken, you're going to have a bunch of little fat particles dispersed throughout your continuous phase. And when you add your new fat droplet, something kind of cool happens. So here's our new fat droplet, and we'll color it dark green so we can keep track of it. When you add this new fat droplet, you continue to whisk it around your bowl, and it starts to knock in or bump into all of these other already small dispersed fat particles. And as this happens, it will actually be broken up by just the force of knocking into each other. And what happens is, as they start to knock into each other, the already dispersed fat is going to help to break up the new fat and disperse it more evenly into smaller particles throughout the emulsification. And this is something that Harold McGee calls the fat mill in his book on food and cooking. And we're going to label it the dispersion mill because, technically speaking, this could be this works with both, just any dispersed phase, whether your dispersed phase is fat or whether it is water. This dispersion mill holds true, right? So the more emulsified fat that you add, the more viscosity you will have, or the viscosity will increase. And when we talked about last episode, viscosity in and of itself can actually work as a stabilizer. And this happens because the more viscous or the thicker your emulsification becomes, you will have more increased drag on your dispersed phase, in this case the fat particles. And as these fat particles have increased drag on them, they will start to split up into a smaller dispersed phase. The shearing power will actually increase, and the emulsion by nature will become more stable because you have a smaller dispersed phase. And because of the viscosity acting as a stabilizer, and because of the already dispersed fat acting as our dispersion mill, towards the end of the emulsification process, you can actually add the fat more quickly. Now that we understand the actual emulsification process,